Welcome back to another video about paradise. Today we are going to talk one last time about the Seychelles. To see all the other videos, I'm going to link the playlist up here. Today is going to be kind of a conclusion and some tips and tricks on the Seychelles. Let's dive into it. Let's go. 7 different topics. It's going to be transportation and the traffic. It's going to be about food, accommodation, also about the people of the Seychelles, and then we are going to continue with beaches and activities, the weather, last but not least, snorkeling and diving. We are going to start off with the transportation, first of which is the car rental, which I would highly recommend, because on the main island, Mahé, you are going to spend about 40 to 50 euros for a pretty short car ride. So maybe from the airport to your accommodation, that could already be about 50 euros. For us, we were pretty much down south with our accommodation, and it was about, I think, 80 euros for the taxi. The car rental was only 40 euros a day, so that makes way more sense. And also it is kind of nice to explore the whole island like that. Avoid taxi if you can and take either a car rental or maybe take the bus, because the bus is pretty cheap and you're going to meet some friendly locals. They're really nice, and also it's kind of an adventure. Sometimes it's a little bit scary because the bus drivers, they drive pretty fast. This is another info about the Seychelles and the traffic there. You're only allowed to drive 40 kilometers per hour. There is a main road on Mahé and a part on Praslin where you can drive a little faster. But apart from that, you are only allowed to drive that slow, but it feels way faster because the streets are pretty narrow and also really windy, and you're trying to enjoy the really nice view, so it comes in handy that you can just drive slowly. On the car rental, we also made the experience that the people are pretty chilled. Like, we got the car and we were going around the car taking some pictures of the damages that were already there, but they were really chilled. On Praslin, actually, he said, okay, when you bring the car back, I won't be there, just leave the car there, leave the key either in the lock or put it up in the sunscreen. It was totally fine. Nobody mentioned anything, so that was pretty easy, and we booked it on location, on arrival. We didn't book beforehand. In between the islands, you can choose either to fly from Mahé to Praslin, there's another airport, or you can take the ferry, which I would recommend. It is quite expensive. You can check it in those videos up there. But yeah, I really recommend to see all the islands. So there isn't really a way around it. So that is the way to go. Let's talk food. You basically have 3 different options. Option 1 is self-catering. In a lot of the accommodations, you will find yourself having a kitchen, and then you can go grocery shopping and cook for yourself. That's the cheapest option, but you have to decide if you want to do something like that on your vacations. We didn't, so we didn't cook for ourselves, but yeah, often we ended up taking snacks from the supermarket and eat those, because second option is the takeaways. That's the cheaper restaurant options. So that's food trucks or something like small restaurants where you can only take away food. Sometimes the normal restaurants also offer takeaway. Then you get a little cheaper because you don't take up a seat. Third option is restaurants. Really expensive. Wouldn't recommend that, except when you're having a date night, something like that. Then you might want to spend the money. But if you want to go budget, I would say either cook for yourself if you want or take the takeaway. Accommodation. There are basically different options, like on all travels you can either book hostels, hotels or Airbnbs. I didn't really find any classical hostels on the islands, but yeah, there are plenty of Airbnb options and a lot of hotels, and they vary from prices from pretty reasonable to you can spend as much as you want. Like there basically is no real limit on how much you can spend. The cheapest one we got was about 80 to 90 euros per night. We also found accommodation for less, but they didn't have a COVID certificate, so that is kind of a problem right now. The accommodation has to be certified to be allowed to have you sleep there, and if you want to get into the country you have to provide all these certificates for every single night you're going to stay on the island, which is kind of a shame because you can't be spontaneous about the nights, how many nights you spend where and in which accommodation. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer, but it's the way it is right now. The people of the Seychelles we found really nice, really helpful, really hospitable. They were friendly, they invited us. Also is a video about that where a guy invited us into his house. They are really laid back and chilled. Sometimes the people are like I would picture Jamaicans like. I will find out at the end of the year because we are going to go to Jamaica, and if you want to join us on that journey as well, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you will not miss out on that. There's also a little bell that you can ring and click, and then you're going to get a push notification as soon as the new video comes on. So I would highly recommend doing that. The Seychelles are also a country where you can negotiate. I think it is not as common and as easy as in Southeast Asia, for example, but still some prices I managed to get a little further down. Sometimes it seems like they have the same price all over the place and they spoke to each other, but still you can get a few euros less here and there. The fifth point on our list are beaches and activities. There is a law in the Seychelles where each and every beach belongs to everyone. So there are no private beaches for hotels and stuff like that. There's one exception, which is the Anse Georgette. There you have to cross the property of a hotel and also a golf course. And we made a video about that as well, which is in the playlist. And you still are allowed to do that. You only have to let them know beforehand that you are going to go there. And apart from that, you can go to every beach. It's all for free. So that is really nice. For activities, they can get quite expensive if you do some excursions, if you want to visit other islands, if you want to go snorkeling, stuff like that. That is quite expensive compared to, for example, Southeast Asia, which is pretty cheap, but still compared, it is quite expensive. There also is the option to go for a hike, which I would really recommend. You can do that on Mahe easily. We did the Copolia Trail, which is up here as well. And on Praslin, I really would recommend the Vallée des Mailles. And on La Digue, there are some beaches which are kind of hidden where you can walk over a trail to get there, which is really fun as well. On Curieuse Island, you're going to get from the Turtle Beach over to a nice swimming beach. So that is another hike, which was really fun. Number 6 on the list is the weather. And I can't really talk about the weather in general. You should check beforehand if you want to go to the Seychelles. Don't be fooled by the forecasts on the internet. It will almost always show rain and stuff like that. It is not going to be that way. Sometimes it's going to shower for a little short while, but the longest we experienced was maybe about an hour and a half. Apart from that, the whole time it was either a little cloudy, but mostly sunny. And that's another tip. Take a lot of sunscreen, take a lot of mosquito repellent, because that is what you're going to need most in the Seychelles. And here we are at the 7th and last point, which is snorkeling and diving. I have to admit that I'm kind of spoiled in these fields, because I have snorkeled and dived in a lot of beautiful places, which makes it kind of hard to compare spots sometimes. But still, I found the Seychelles pretty nice for both. There was a lot to see, a lot of rays, a lot of turtles, beautiful, colorful fishes, but still I like some other countries and some other spots more. The prices for snorkeling, it always depends. Like, you can go from shore, you have to rather check the tides before you go, because they will vary a lot. And I made the experience a couple of times that it was low tide and I was unable to go for a snorkel, because the water was just half a meter below me, and if you pass a stingray with that distance, that is not the best feeling in the world at all. So sometimes I cut my snorkeling trips short because of that, and I decided to go back to shore. And if you go on a boat, that varies from prices depending on if you do multiple spots or if it's combined with island visit or stuff like that. The dives were almost in all places, all dive shops, was 65 euros per dive. If you do more dives in one trip, you're going to save some money. So I think for a double dive it was 120 euros. And also, depending on which season you're going to visit the Seychelles, you might have the chance to see whale sharks, which I haven't yet in my entire life. It's way up on my bucket list because I've been to a lot of places. I've been in Australia, I've been to Thailand, I have been to even the Philippines, where they are pretty common, but I refuse to go to that spot where they are feeding the whale sharks, which I didn't want to support, and I still haven't seen them yet. But as I said, we are going to go on a long trip at the end of this year. Join us there, subscribe and the bell, bing, bing, bing. And I really hope to check that off the bucket list on that trip. As a conclusion, the Seychelles are a really nice country. Beautiful beaches, nice people, good weather. What else could you want from a country? It is not the cheapest, but if you are able and willing to spend the money, then I would highly recommend to go there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. If so, leave it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, enjoy. Try to exit the 9 to 5, at least in your mind, for a little while. See you over there.